the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
Welcome to Business Rockstars. I'm Alex Worley, joined by Robin Young, co-founder of Robin Young & Co. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, so we are going to talk all things branding. I love talking branding, so happy you're here. If you could start out by giving us a little bit of an overview of your entrepreneurial journey and how it led to you starting this company.
Sure. Gosh, I don't know how much time we have, so I'll try and keep it the Reader's Digest version. So my entrepreneurial journey started out actually in market research. So I worked with this company, Gallup & Robinson. You're probably familiar with Gallup surveys, pretty big. For them, I did market research for big commercial companies like Nike and Target and Robbins Brothers. And really not the most fun work, but really, really important to learn how customers respond to certain commercial aspects like taglines and editorial content and in-store experiences and things. So I had a really great foundation in branding. And then I switched more into the creative side and I worked as a stylist. That was the first time I moved to LA. So I did that within, magazines and whatnot. And then everything was kind of making the shift to digital. So I followed suit. I worked with 2 different digital agencies, mostly working on influencer brands and with pseudo celebrities on their branded content. So this was way back in the day before, brand strategy or putting a brand identity was even a thing. So I really had to kind of guesstimate, what is my client's like brand really? It was something that I kind of had to figure out on my own. And then I finished off by working with a major company. So UCLA, who's got, 100 years of experience. So they have a very, very solid brand in place. But I had to work within those confines and really create a way to take this existing brand and make it feel really fresh. And I worked on everything from email campaigns to social media to websites, just ran the gamut of different marketing materials. So really got a very robust understanding of how branding worked. And awesome. I capped my experience off at General Assembly, which is a tech school. For them, I was more of a producer or product manager. I worked with the product management, user experience design, and digital marketing courses. So I effectively learned how to launch a product, how to market that product, how to create a really engaging user experience design for that product. So that was the last piece I felt like I needed in order to effectively do this now for my own clients, for businesses.
Okay, so you pretty much left your 9-to-5 job abruptly when you were pregnant, right?
Yes.
And then you took this risk and decided to start your company. Tell me that story.
Oh God, it's a really funny one. So I had decided reluctantly, because I really loved the company and the team that I was working with. But I had always had this thing in my heart that just told me, nope, this isn't it. You're going to start something of your own and you're just going to get to creating and, doing what you love to do. And it felt like, okay, well, maybe this is the right time. So I had made my decision. I'm like, I'm leaving. This is it. And, my husband and I had been trying to have a baby all along, but, with no success. But then the day after I decided that I was leaving, this is it. I'm leaving. I found out I was pregnant, just before I gave my 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh God, can I still do this? Is this still responsible, to take this kind of risk? Because I had no idea, no plan in place, no clients, nothing concrete before I left. So it was a risk, but I'm happy to say that it had a good
it panned out.
It panned out.
Okay, so what was it within you that just kind of knew you had to do this?
Maybe it was the baby. I don't know. I've just always had it. I've always kind of been a creative person, and to be honest, I felt like I've never been in a position where I felt like I'm using 100% of my potential here. I feel like positions just really don't call for that. They want you to be really, really great at this one thing, and that's it. You're this pillar. And I was never a pillar person. I was somebody who really liked to have my hands in different cookie jars. So I kind of have always known it, and I think this was just the time where it made the most sense in my life. And before I found out I was pregnant. But it ended up being great. And
and you know what I love about your story is there's never the perfect time to start a business. No. And I think a lot of times I'll hear entrepreneurs say, I wish I would have started earlier.
Yeah.
And so if you have an idea, if you have the passion, if, worst case scenario is not that bad, you're going to survive, then do it now,
Yeah. It's something that I try and remember too. And I think part of the advice that I would have given myself is like, you're not going to be able to have everything figured out at the beginning. Because I always assumed I'm kind of type A and I'm sort of a perfectionist. Like I assumed, no, I don't have enough experience, or no, I don't know enough about X, Y, Z. It's impossible to have everything figured out.
Yeah, there's always going to be someone who knows more than you, but you just need to know more than your clients or customers or consumers, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's so true. Like to get started, you don't need to have all the answers, but you just need to trust yourself that along the way, you're going to find them.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk branding since you are the branding expert. For entrepreneurs watching and listening who are just starting out, what is a branding toolkit you could provide them with? What are just a few things they need to get started with?
Sure. So this is part of what I teach in these workshops because this is information that's not really out there. It's kind of hidden. And I think the way that most people think about branding is they assume like, oh, it's your logo, it's your color schemes, it's the look and feel of your website. And those are all important items to your branding, but they're more so how you communicate your brand, right? So your brand is really more so the heart of your company. It's the reason that you exist. It's your mission. It's your core values. It's the vision, the bigger vision that you have either for your company or how you're going to change the world or your niche. So I think the toolkit that I would give to them is really get to the why. So not just the what. What you do is important, and you have to be able to explain that, whether you're talking to stakeholders or customers or investors. You have to be able to explain what you do, but the why is so important. The why is what's going to rally your team and your eventual customers around you.
Yeah, because that's where the heart is, and the humanness and the connection for the customer to care as well.
Right. And then with that, your core values, like really what you stand for. So, that's not going to change even if your company changes. So when you're just beginning, you don't know how you're going to pivot or how certain things, maybe the vehicle is going to change.
And even the logo and the colors may even change, like all those tactical things can change and a lot of times should change.
Right.
But the core, your why, the heart of the company, I love that, should not. So
yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, we're going to take a quick break, come back and talk more about building your business. So stay tuned. I'm Alex Worley, and this is Business Rockstars.
Taking an innovative idea, something that's disrupting or changing or shape-shifting the way that something's been done, and putting 120% maximum effort into delivering that and bringing it to scale, meaning you're taking it to a wide audience and you're figuring out how you're going to deliver that to this wide audience. The skills that I've taken from entertainment, I think, are huge for entrepreneurship. I think a lot of people should look at, entertainers a little bit more seriously in terms of as employment candidates for startups, because of the fact that you've already gone through a huge amount of failure or rejection, and so your stomach is already there for it. And in entrepreneurship, you're going to go through tons of that. So I think that's one thing that I've taken away from it, and also the ability to storytell. The exposure that we got from doing TechCrunch Disrupt, we participated in the Battlefield competition in New York City. That got us a lot of exposure, and we were really able to parlay that. I truly believe there's a solution to every single problem. There's always going to be hurdles, and there's always going to be another wall. And once you realize that and you kind of accept it, then it's very easy to then look at the problem and try to find a solution to the problem.
Welcome back to Business Rockstars. I'm Alex Worley, continuing my conversation with Robin Young. She is the founder of Robin Young and Company. So let's talk about where the idea came from. I mean, I know that you had this plethora of experience in branding. You knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur, but what made you go, this is it, Robin Young and Co.?
Yeah, it's so funny because when I first started, I really didn't have much direction because I had worked in all of these different facets, right? So of course, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to be a full service, like from the get-go, we're going to do social media and content strategy and branding and web design and the whole gamut, right? So the funny part is that it wasn't until I got more clear on my own brand, on that vision and who was I speaking to, and what was really important to me, that I started to be successful in my business. Mm-hmm. So I really kind of took a step back after a couple months of, you know, just in the you know, mouse wheel and not really getting anywhere with it. I took a step back and said, well, what's really important to me, and what's the niche that I can carve out for myself that I really love and I really do well. So I came to, okay, I've worked with so many startups who, you know, you have basically graphic designers who expect you to come to the table with that brand strategy. You have strategists who maybe they'll help you with the strategy part, but they don't do design. And then you have these major ad agencies who are going to charge you, you know, 50 grand for you to get a full suite of designs with the brand strategy. So I saw this need for these smaller businesses to find somebody who could not only help them with the strategy part, but really connect that to that suite of designs and how to take that strategy and communicate it in a way that's really viable and connects to their customers. So once I figured that out and I got really clear on that packaging and how I was going to take that business and really make it work for a team of one, that's when things just started to happen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how would you say that you differentiate yourself from the competition?
Yeah. So I think what I was saying about that combination between strategy and design. So we're not just coming to you saying, oh, okay, well, what are the characteristics that you want to portray? That creates really inconsistent, very flat, surface level brands. We really dive deep into what makes you a company and like what do you know, what's the bigger vision that you have here and how can we position you in a unique way from your competition. So it's that combination of really robust, smart strategy with really thoughtful, beautiful design that I think makes us different.
Mm-hmm. What direction do you think branding is going? What do you think the future of branding is?
Yeah, I think it's more than just putting this really great front out, like your website, which is basically become like your storefront. It's more than just that now. Now it's about branded content. And I'm really lucky in that I, really grew up in that atmosphere. Yeah. So I already kind of understand it. But I think it's about, again, creating this really, really smart, really thoughtful place in which you're building from that connects with your users. So branding is no longer about the stuff that you sell. It's about the lifestyle. It's about an experience. People want something they can rally behind. And we as consumers ask ourselves, what does buying this say about me? So we are connecting with brands, So as a company, you now have an obligation to really look at the bigger picture and to ask yourself, what's my customer experience and what's the lifestyle I'm selling here? Because I think that's going to trickle into that content.
Yeah, and to your point, I feel like creating communities is so important because exactly people want to rally behind something and feel like they stand for something and belong with a group of people that aligns with their values and what they're all about.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So what would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout this entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, gosh, the biggest lesson. I think part of it is that you can do it. And anybody can. You just have to stay motivated, and you have to have a laser focus. So when I first started, I had this little travel blog going, and it was a passion, and I really loved it. But I was trying to work both of these things at the same time, and I just felt like, gosh, I can't do it. I can't be great at both of these things at once. So I, reluctantly had to put my travel blog to the side, and I really had to push forward with my business. So I think it's important to know that you can do it, but you need that laser focus. You can do anything that you want to, you just can't do everything that you want to.
Yeah, the power
at least
of
not at the same time.
focus is so crucial for sure.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey and expertise with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm Alex Worley, and this is Business Rockstars.
Do you have a great idea for a product or a business you know is worth millions, but you don't know how or where to start? Are you tired of building somebody else's dream? Well, go build your own. BusinessRockstars.com is an amazing resource for anybody who wants to become an entrepreneur, to start or grow your own business. Go to BusinessRockstars.com. BusinessRockstars.com.
You're watching Business Rockstars. Thanks for joining us. Now let's go to Mark Lack.
Patrick Sikdanis is joining us right now. He's the CEO and president of Determine. It's a pleasure to have you on the show with us.
Thank you, Mark. How are you?
So I'm doing fantastic. Excellent. I want to hear about your business. What do you do?
Great. So Determine really empowers companies' decision-making processes. So we provide them with the technology that allows them to manage, track their suppliers, contracts, anything that's associated with contracts and suppliers, as well as being able to use those suppliers for all of their employees to buy things, so catalogs and things like that. So really help workforces empower their employees to make better decisions.
Well, take us back to the beginning. What was your first company?
Sure.
I want to know what led to this.
Well, there's actually a spot before that, if you're okay with that. I actually grew up on a dairy farm, and my brothers are entrepreneurs, and they turned a small little business into a major production environment. And growing up in that world, I kind of learned to figure out and fend for yourself and be creative and figure out things. So got out of there in the late 80s and went on to start a company in the CRM space, the software as a service type thing, and worked with a New Zealand company who were great entrepreneurs, understood the business, and really was way ahead of the SaaS curve, if you will.
Okay.
And it was an interesting time. Sold the business, went on, did a few other things, and then 2005 founded another company called Force Logics, where we again saw a trend in the space, and was able to take that public in 2010. Sold it in 2012.
Congrats.
And then thanks.
Exciting times.
Yeah, it was exciting. And then we a little consulting for a couple of years, and then I joined Determine almost 3 years ago, where it was a small little entity, and we've done several acquisitions now to get to where we are today.
What do you feel like on your journey has been one of the biggest lessons you've learned? Not a lot of entrepreneurs that sit in this chair have gone through all of the business iterations you have, grown and sold companies like you have, and taken companies public like you have. So I'm curious from your perspective as an entrepreneur who's had a pretty exciting journey, what do you feel like are a couple of the biggest aha moments you've had?
Yeah, the key thing, I think, to a lot of people is they have a great idea and they want to rush out and say, everybody wants this, right?
Yeah.
But there's a tremendous amount of homework that needs to be done and data that needs to be analyzed before you do it. And I will tell you that in 2005, when we launched my first startup with my partner, back then, we knew we had a great idea. We knew people wanted it. We knew there was a market for it. But again, you have to look at, is there a market for what you want to sell? And can you build something fast enough to meet the needs of that market or actually exceed the needs of that market? And then you have to get the right people on it. So I think the thing that I took away from this, and not only from an entrepreneurial perspective, but from any business standpoint, right? Regardless of what you're going into, make sure the company or the idea that you have, that there's a market for it, that somebody actually wants it. A lot of people say they might want it, but will they practically use your products?
People go around and say, oh, a lot of people told me they'd buy this. But
exactly.
if you've ever watched Shark Tank, right? It's like the money in the bank, actual tangible sales is what validates it, not people saying it.
That's exactly right. And I think that's an interesting point because Shark Tank, I watch it all the time because I'm interested about these ideas.
We had Damon on here.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, it's really is that. I mean, they may think it's a great idea, and people may say, but if those people will actually give you money, if they will help you find customers, then you know you're onto something, right? And even if before the market's there, but maybe a better idea, which I've learned over time, is maybe don't reinvent a wheel, but find a market that's already out there. That
or as you've done a trend.
See the trends. That's exactly
you've been great
right.
on capitalizing on those.
1998, I should say, saw a trend in consolidation on the sales side with businesses and Salesforce automation, what Salesforce.com did. And then 10 years later, a little bit more, saw the same trends happening on the procurement side, which is why I joined Determined to bring those things together. But
I think that you made some great points on what a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs make mistakes on. Let's talk about somebody who's maybe a beginning entrepreneur to a seasoned entrepreneur. What do you think are some of the big mistakes you see business owners making?
Yeah, they just don't arm themselves with enough data, right? And I think that's the key piece here. Whether it's well, let's just actually talk about how we use data today, right?
Yeah.
So entrepreneurs, they have an idea, they get an investor, and off they go. And maybe they don't take enough time to really research it and really how to go fast and go easy. I mean, we don't do anything as a society these days without data. We don't go out to dinner, out to lunch. If I'm going to spend $50 for lunch, I'm going to take a look and read the reviews and
Yelp
who
and
has gone there, Yelp, OpenTable, all that stuff, and not make those decisions until I have data. And 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have that opportunity. I remember buying my first house, right? I walked in, yep, I like it, bought the house. Didn't look at the, all the information around it or the neighborhood or all those things. And the same with dinner. We just don't go out to lunch without having the data that we need. Well, now young entrepreneurs, they have the ability to do that research.
Yeah.
The internet is there. Friends, relatives, everyone that they know has a business somewhere, has their fingers in something.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to really dig deep and research and understand what you're getting into before you get into it is a hell of a lot better than really just jumping into it and doing it. Because there's three things that are going to happen, right? Either you're going to take off with your idea, your idea is going to fail quickly, which both are good, by the way. The worst is getting caught in that middle and just trudging on, spending money, and never actually going one way or the other. And then if it drags out, then you got trouble.
I love that advice. I'm excited to come right back with Patrick Stakanis to talk more about what makes his company successful. This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Lack, and we connect a community of entrepreneurs. You can join us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at businessrockstars.com.
How can you help move a deal along that seems to be at a standstill? I'm Alex Worley with the Business Rockstars Minute. Nowadays, the closing of a business deal could be frustrating slow. A slow deal means no deal, so you gotta speed things up. How exactly can you speed it up? The solution is to generate urgency in the client's mind so they will take action to move your deal forward. Here are 3 basic techniques to help build urgency. Number 1, show the buyer the risk they are taking as a do-it-yourselfer and how those who try to solve problems on their own end up paying more in the end. Number 2, show the buyer the longer they put off doing something and solving that problem, the more time they lose to fix that problem and catch up with what the competition is doing. Number 3, explain to the buyer that you have a limited supply of product or time if you sell a service. A slow deal makes no deal. You need to take control and speed things up. I'm Alex Worley, and this has been a Business Rockstars Minute. This is Business Rockstars. Now back to Mark Lack.
Joining us right now is Patrick Stakanis. He's the CEO and president of Determined. Recap first what your company does.
Sure, Mark. Again, we are focused on business decisions and helping companies make decisions around suppliers, contracts, and really all the information of stuff that they procure. So companies that of all sizes, right, need to make decisions every day on their suppliers and how they manage all this data, and we link it all together, one system, one platform, and empower their workforce to be able to make better decisions.
So something like that is a space that a lot of people are getting in. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of need for that, and a lot of companies are creating different variations of a similar solution. So my question for you is, how do you differentiate yourself as a preeminent brand and option in such a noisy, competitive space?
Sure, sure. Well, we actually started 3 years ago in the thought process. We saw, and in fact, one of the areas that I was working with very closely is on the procurement side was understanding what people are going to want 3 years from now, 3 years ago. And again, then they're looking for suites or platforms of technology. They don't want to have to go looking in 10 different places for information when it comes to their suppliers, when it comes to contracts, their customers, and so on. So we did a period of acquisition over 2 years. We bought 3 companies together and really created a platform versus a suite of products. And that's a big differentiator. The platform that we have now is one code base of technology. So when you onboard a supplier onto your business, they're inside the database of that platform. So whether I come in through a procure-to-pay opportunity or whether sourcing or whether contract management, all that data from the contracts, the suppliers are all in one spot.
Values is something that comes up when we talk about company culture. So what are some of the values that you integrate into all the companies because you found that these values, when adopted by everybody, are what drives success?
Yeah, we actually have a very prescribed set of values that we talk about every day inside.
I knew you would.
Yeah, yeah, we do. No, and I won't go through all of them, but there are 6 core values, and it's collaboration, it's teamwork, it's all those things that you would expect. But we don't just put them on a board and put them on a cube. We actually espouse them every day. We get everyone to live those of those values and really understand it and talk about them amongst each other and start meetings with values and actually work together as an organization. And now we're actually taking that a step further this year. We have the values in place, we have our vision and our mission in place, and now we're actually taking this to put a way more heavy emphasis on the actual customer side of it and how can we espouse our values on our customers as well and get them to pull in. We're a small company when it comes to some of our nearest competitors who are giants in the industry. But we beat them every day because of the strength of our company and because of the values that we have and the core culture that we have as an organization.
A lot of big companies surprisingly have some of the worst company culture and some of the worst customer service, which is crazy to think that they were able to get so big.
Right.
My question for you as we shift gears is on the topic of sales and marketing.
Sure.
How are you generating and converting leads for this specific type of business that you're in?
Well, again, it's interesting from the standpoint of where we are. We're not a heavily funded company. Where our nearest competitor actually just recently went public and raised, I don't know, $250 million or something like that.
Small number.
What's that? Yeah, in our world, big numbers. But the thing is, so we're again applying entrepreneurial tactics, right? Guerrilla marketing, right? What can we do better?
Yeah.
One of the things that we found out, and we have a fantastic marketing staff of like 6, right? It's just a small group. But one of the things that we found out very early is that the marketplace or the people that are buying this type of technology was starving for content. So the big analysts of the world, like Gartner and Forrester and those guys out there, they talk a bit about it and they talk at a high level. But in the range, in the space that we sell into, there's very little content. So we started going out, doing customers interviews, webinars, having our featured blog every single week. I blog every single month. Key members of my staff do as well. And interestingly enough, people read our content. They're starving for it. So that's been a really key thing for us. Not a lot of money. Get the blogs out there, do webinars with key partners in our space, and we drive a tremendous amount of leads for our sales force just through doing that alone. And it's simple and it's easy, but highly effective.
Which avenues, which platforms have you found to be most effective for you? Is it Facebook? Is it LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn is huge. Facebook really, it's a consumer app. There's really nothing there from a business perspective. You can have thousands and thousands of followers, but who will never buy your product. And one of the things, again, we talked a little bit before about what entrepreneurs can do and can't do and what the mistakes they made. One of them is that relying on social media, just because they're on Facebook or do something cool or have a funny video, doesn't mean people are going to buy your stuff. Yeah. You can have 1 million viewers of a video, but not one person will buy your stuff if they're the wrong viewers.
I see that all the time.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is a great one, by the way. We put a lot of information out on LinkedIn. Our own website, we use a ton. And then we link it to those types of things. We leverage information from Gartner and from Forrester, and we do joint things with them. And some of it's paid, some of it's not paid. But being able to drive people to your site through using that kind of content, the broader reach you can get, but you go too far and then it's just vanilla. So it has to be poignant, it has to be that rifle approach.
Well, you said Determine right now is a small organization for you guys. My question is, you probably have a big vision to scale this. How are you going to go about doing that?
Yeah, so all those things we've been talking about, I got the right team in place. So, kind of going back to the 3 things that I talked about. The market is there. Market's growing 15, 20% per year. It's a big market, $7 billion. We have a small piece of that. I now have a product we've recently are launching our Determined Cloud platform, right, which is a new and innovative way to do this business for our customers. It's exciting. Nobody else is doing it. We're the first ones there. And then the last piece is now I got the right people. So I got a market, I got a product, and I got people. So with that, there's no doubt we're going to kill this thing.
So last question as we wrap up. We got a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs. They're trying to make the decision. They're listening to shows like this to put the pieces together to say, when is the right time for me to cut the cord from my source of income that pays for my bills, allows me to live? When can I cut that cord and go all in as an entrepreneur business owner? What do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure that I always did it the right way because I was an all-in kind of guy typically. But I got to tell you, if you can, and especially young entrepreneurs coming out of college or maybe a few years with a company, if you can kind of take that corporate job and work it and get experience and learn deep and try to grow inside that company, and then massage your ideas along the way until you think you have the right idea and before you jump ship, and then really try to get other people to do things for you and use other people's money to do things for you until you're absolutely ready to jump ship. The younger you are, the better. It's harder to do it at 45 years old.
Fail fast when you're young, right?
When I jumped in, things go fast. You lose a little, you gain a little, you're okay. But as you get older, it gets a little bit more difficult. But again, having the right people surrounded you and maybe having a little bit of money saved up to be able to live. But you gotta know that when you jump in, as you know, Mark, with entrepreneurialism, you go all in at some point. So you can test it for a while, but when you think you got it right, you got to go.
I love that.
Need help.
So somebody says, I want to learn more about you. Maybe even look a little bit more into this thing that you guys sell at Determine as your offer. Where can they do this?
Yeah, determine.com. You'll find us. We're out there. We got a fantastic website. And all the information you could ever need about who we are, what we are, and where we're headed is all there.
There you go. Patrick, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
I'm Mark Lack. This is Business Rockstars. We connect a community of entrepreneurs. You can join us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at businessrockstars.com.
After this short break, more Business Rockstars. Welcome to Business Rockstars. Today I'm talking to Nick Rock. She is the president and designer at The Rock Shop. And this is really exciting for me because I've been connecting with you on Instagram, admiring your business from afar for a while. I'm really excited to get an up close and behind the scenes look at how you've built this amazing business. So if you could first give us an overview of how you started your business. I know at first it was a hobby. It quickly turned into a full-blown business. So if you could share that story with us first.
Yeah, definitely. I started off as a graphic designer. I still am a graphic designer, but my main business was in like the wedding industry, designing stationery, wedding invitations. And it's more of a very conservative kind of industry. You don't really stray. You don't get this flexibility to be like truly yourself. And I found myself over time not getting bored, but just finding that it was super redundant, and I kind of needed the space to just like release and like just be
express
myself. Exactly, yeah. And so I started exactly. I started the Rock Shop because it was supposed to be just for fun. The Rock Shop sells party wear that is laser cut, and what I mean by party wear, it's stir sticks, cake toppers, photo booth signs, home decor. We have like foil stamp prints, cocktail napkins, everything, like everything you can think of for a party and just for celebrating.
Cool signs for selfies and photo ops.
Yeah, and so it was just for fun. It really was. It just was purely for people to have fun, and it was kind of meant to coincide like with my business, Nick Rock Designs, the graphic design side. And then this was supposed to be kind of like I can sell to like my wedding clients, like cake toppers and stuff like that. But it actually took a turn in 2016. The Rock Shop it got a little bit more like of a message to it. And it was because I found out I had cancer. And it was something that runs in my family. My aunt died last year of medullary thyroid carcinoma. And so for me, when I found the growth in my neck, it was more of like, oh my gosh, this is the same thing my aunt had. And I was watching my aunt dying. And so like when you're faced with this, what you think is pretty much like all the negative things that people tell you not to think. They tell you not to jump to conclusions. They tell you not to go there in that place, but you just can't help it. You kind of just do. You go into that place of like, oh my gosh, my life could be over. It took me about 4 months to get an actual diagnosis. I was misdiagnosed like several times. So that was really frustrating. So in that time of 4 months, it was a huge waiting game. And I remember one night I couldn't sleep. And I woke my husband up and I was kind of just telling him how I felt about everything. And I was just explaining to him, it's not the fear of death that I'm afraid of. It was the fear of dying without ever having a voice, without ever expressing how fierce of a person I am. And I'm a very outspoken person, but for the past, prior 7, 8 years, I just kind of just shut it down. And so the Rock Shop became this whole discovery for me, like through cancer, of how to use that voice and how to use it for my community, how to use it for women empowerment, and just how to use it for myself to feel empowered and to feel alive and to feel like I have a place in this world. So that's kind of what it became. The brand became a women empowerment party wear brand. But
yeah, what a story. And I think you're such a good example of how you can use your business to be more than just a business, but be a brand that stands for something, that's mission driven, that has a more powerful message. And in your case, is an outlet for you to use your voice.
Yes.
So can you expand upon that a little bit more about how you use your voice and what are some of those messages that you want to share and where? I know Instagram is the one that I get to see all the time, but expand upon that.
So the use of my voice has really become, like I said, it's a personal journey for me. So I've always been a very outspoken person. Although I am educated, I'm not always the classiest. And I've always been judged for that. And I think a lot of women work hard, they have careers, but they want to let loose sometimes. They want to just say the things they want to say and not be judged or looked down upon. And for me, with the Rock Shop, I was allowed to do that. I was allowed to use F words in my party wear. I'm allowed to use sassy, cheeky sayings because it makes people feel good. Because while they're working and they're maintaining their career and they're really serious side, they can go out with their girlfriends and use these really cheeky stir sticks. And I basically took the party wear line and started turning it into a community awareness line. So the Rock Shop is involved in a lot of community activities. We do a week, like a Women Crush Wednesday, every other week. Sometimes it's once a month. But it just highlights all the women that we know who are small businesses and making it, in their communities and the differences they're making, what their business means to their communities. So that's kind of yes, we're a party wear line that's helping women empower and have their voice heard. But we're also a line that's actually giving a platform and highlighting women who are doing something amazing in their communities, who are makers. I know so many women I have a friend right now who I basically met her interviewing her for Women Crush Wednesday, but she's building her own tiny house. She learned woodworking. She learned metal smithing. She's done soldering and all that and welding. It's just amazing to see someone.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then she's definitely into sustainable living. So in her process of building her home, it's all sustainable living, recycling, items and materials. And it's just...
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a good example of how we met each other because of this common shared mission and bigger movement going on for female empowerment and having women's voices be heard. And within female empowerment, there's this bigger sector, within it of women in business and supporting each other. So that's really cool to see that coming alive. And I can relate to being a part of this bigger mission. And together, we're just so much stronger. So very, very cool. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about becoming an entrepreneur? Are you tired of building somebody else's dream? Well, go build your own. Go to businessrockstars.com and find out how. businessrockstars.com.
Welcome back to Business Rockstars. I'm continuing my conversation with the president and designer of the Rock Shop. Now, you told me your beautiful story before, how you took the Rock Shop from being a hobby to being a full-blown business. But if you could dive into a little bit more the inspiration behind the idea of the Rock Shop, why specifically the Rock Shop and its products and its beautiful brand?
All right, yeah. So specifically the rock shop, because as I mentioned before, I wanted to have some way to express like everything that I felt, but I also wanted to have fun. And I think for me, my graphic design job wasn't feeling so fun. And I wanted this outlet to have a party, like to go to work and just be partying every day. And so that's basically what pushed me in that direction for the rock shop, was just the need to want to have fun. And that really was the journey, was like, I just want to have fun.
And I think some of the best businesses are started that way, where it's just a passion project, a hobby at first. You get to test out, make sure you still love this passion of yours. And then you also get to test out what the demand is as well. And you saw that there was a demand. So I'm sure there was a point where you went, whoa, I really have an idea here and a business that I could run with.
Most definitely.
So let's talk about capital, because that's a side of business that's often hard to talk about. It always takes some amount of funds, varying to a large degree, to start a business. So how did you fund your business initially before there was cash flow?
Initially, it was my husband, who was not my husband at the time. He was my boyfriend. He's the one that bought me my computer that started the whole graphic design things. And so he was the person that basically believed in me. I've never taken out any loans. It has solely been me working full-time jobs and then funding my businesses. And once my original business got to a point where I was making good profit, I started funneling that profit over to the rock shop. And so now the rock shop is actually overpowering my other business. And so...
And your other business being the design for the weddings and that sort of thing.
So.
How would you describe your work culture in the office?
I don't really have high expectations of people other than the fact to get their job done. But I mean, like, I try to make it fun. It's lighthearted. They're allowed to come in and just chill out and hang out and like talk to me if they need to. Like, if they want to talk about what happened during that day, we can talk about it, as long as they get the job done for the day. So as long as they're fulfilling their task list, getting it done, then there's always time for
you
like,
empower
talking.
them to do it
fun.
how they do best.
Exactly.
So what's been the biggest challenge and the biggest success with your business so far?
I think the biggest success, and this is just like so funny, and I think people in San Diego will understand this. So in 2016, we got a full spread on Martha Stewart magazine, wedding magazine. It was awesome. You just open the page and there's our product, like a huge spread. And I was super excited about that. I'm like, that's great. I'm in Martha Stewart. And then we were in a few magazines after that. We were in HGTV. Like, people were featuring us in magazines and print. It was awesome. It was the greatest thing. And like, that was, for me, it wasn't that it wasn't successful. It was a stepping stone. I was starting to realize, wow, I'm making an impact. People are starting to see my product. But I feel like my biggest success was most recently getting a stockist in San Diego, and their company is called Pigment. They're in this community called North Park. That's where I live. But Pigment is so popular on like Instagram. Like, bloggers from all over the place fly in to like photograph there. And they recently started carrying our products. And that to me was success. That is success. And it's not because, oh, it's a local shop.
It's a huge milestone.
Yeah, it's because they're hard to get into, and they're a very well curated store. So they have a story in mind, and they make sure they're like telling it the way they want to tell it. They don't ever veer off. And so to be included as a part of that, someone saying, this brand is part of our story, it's part of what we want to say to the world, that to me is success.
Cool.
Like, it's a local shop, but it's an amazing shop. So.
Yeah. Okay, what's been the challenge, and then how have you overcome it?
The challenge is freedom. It's the freedom to just be like, I'm going to wake up and not do anything.
It's the double-edged sword of entrepreneurship.
That's the challenge. Is like, I have to constantly remind myself, okay, I have to get up. I have to do things. I have to like answer to the world. That's the hardest part, is not, when you go into entrepreneurship and you just leave your job, you don't have that like structure. You don't have structure. You don't have, a manager or a boss kind of telling you like what you're doing wrong, problem solving for you, coming up with solutions. That's pretty much all on you to take care of. So that, for me, even to this day, even though I've had my own businesses for, wow, it's been 9 years. It's still a really tough thing, is to constantly, because my brand is constantly changing, our message is constantly changing, I have to come up with new solutions to the problems that I'm not used to. So that's been the challenge for me, is just how do I keep on myself to keep up?
Well, you're doing it, and you're doing it beautifully. Thank you so much for stopping by, for sharing your journey with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.